welcome to a very special episode of Frankly Speaking, and joining me tonight is Mr. Kiren Rijiju, Union Minister for Earth Sciences. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Rijiju, and we speak at a time when the Parliament session, the monsoon session of Parliament has just concluded, and the government faced a no-trust vote from the opposition on the issue of Manipur. From the northeast, an area that you come from, an area that you prominently represent in the Union Cabinet. Mr. Rijiju, on a very personal note, I want to ask you, are you satisfied with the way the situation in Manipur has been handled?
First of all, thank you for having me. And I must frankly tell you that the monsoon session of the Parliament, we had transacted many important businesses, many far-reaching consequential bills were passed. So from government's point of view, the Parliament session is, as usual, being very fruitful. But when it comes to the role of the opposition, it is very dismal. Unfortunately, the Congress party and some of its allies could not understand the importance of the Parliament session, and they misuse the Parliament and they tried to drive an agenda by misleading the people of India. However, Parliament concluded and they tried to use especially the Manipur issue as a political brownie point. But when the Honorable Prime Minister spoke and when the Home Minister replied on the issue of Manipur in detail, these people had no answer, because the problem which we are facing in Manipur is a law and order problem. It is not a battle against Government of India. It is not a conflict between the militant organizations and the Government of India. It is not a fight between the insurgency and insurgent group and the security forces. It is a conflict between two dominant communities in Manipur, which is very unfortunate. And I had, during my intervention in the no confidence motion, very clearly spelled out that there have been long-standing disputes and misunderstanding between Meitei community and the Kukis, particularly the Kuki group, which is Zhou, Kuki, Chin, and Mar group. So that is a long-standing dispute, and which unfortunately turned into a conflict after the High Court had passed an order, and which led to protests and ultimately which escalated into physical violence. So that has been handled in a very professional manner by the security forces. Home Ministry is dealing with the matter, but they tried to paint the Manipur conflict as a religious conflict. They tried to showcase it as a failure of the Government of India, which is not. And finally, when Prime Minister spoke about Manipur, the Congress party and their allies, they boycotted, they ran away from the floor of the House, which is very unfortunate, and the whole nation saw it.
But Mr. Kiren Rijiju, you yourself say that this was a law and order situation. Who's responsible for the law and order situation of a state? Isn't it the government of the state? Isn't it the chief minister of the state? Did the chief minister of the state rise up to the occasion to handle the law and order situation? Certainly not. 150 people have lost their lives. And if that is the situation, do you think it's proper for him to continue as the Chief Minister of Manipur?
There are various examples in the past where the law and order situation had spiraled out of control, and lots of precious lives were lost. What I want to tell you, Navika, about the Manipur issue is, this issue should not be merely seen from the prism of security failure. See, when there are clashes between some groups, where there are some incidents which are caused by a certain section of the society, then it is easy to handle and clamp down with strong measures. All the mechanisms which the central government or the state government possesses, it needs to be done in an appropriate manner. But when the clash is between the two dominant communities, and which turn into a situation like a civil war, where two dominant communities are coming out and fighting against each other by using violent means of tactics, then it becomes difficult. And for that moment, the Chief Minister of the state should not run away. He should handle the situation in an appropriate manner. So I feel the Chief Minister of Manipur has cooperated with the central government's direction. The head of the administration, the chief secretary, the DGPs were replaced, and the central forces had taken over the control in the conflict areas, and there is a proper mechanism in place now. The peace is returning, normalcy is visible. So now in this kind of situation, it is not right to talk about a political responsibility or replacing of chief minister, because this is a time where we need to handle the situation carefully without getting politics into it. Now opposition party, especially Congress party, who is responsible for all the genesis of the problems in the northeast, particularly in Manipur, and Navika, you know very well, Manipur has the highest numbers of militant organizations in the country. The insurgent groups which were formed in Manipur has a historical reasons. The government in those days, the central government never heard the voice of the people. So these small groups of people, ultimately they had to show their anger by getting into some kind of militant activities. They went out of the mainstream and they went into this insurgency activities. So now after 2014, when no militant organizations are formed, where more than 8,000 militants have surrendered with arms, where the peace process is going on, at this stage, it is important for the central government and the state governments to come together and work to restore peace, whatever has been created in the course of time. Particularly when it comes to Manipur, it is not the case of few people indulging into problem. It is a larger differences between two dominant communities which had translated into unfortunate, very, very violent clashes. So that we need to handle. So we should not go into the political aspects because it is a larger issue.
I want to ask you to put your hand on your heart and answer. If something like this had happened when there was another party governing a state, if law and order situation had deteriorated leading to 150 lives being lost, would you have been as calm, as mature and as tolerant as you want the opposition to be today?
No. What I agree with you is that whenever such situation happens in any state, whichever party may be governing the state, everybody must be concerned. But what I am going to, very specifically mention is, don't play politics in such situation. Don't aggravate the situation. If all political parties stand behind the government in this kind of challenging situation, then it is welcome. For example, when there is a situation of a war, when there is a larger issue, normally the opposition party would come behind the government and say that this is a very challenging time, we are with the government. Now, the Congress has been the most irresponsible political party. In the past, even the Kargil time, then Congress party said that we are with the government, Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister. But what this present Congress party are doing, when there is a surgical strike, they criticize the government. When there is a air strike in Balakot, they criticize the government. When there is a larger civil society getting into difficult situation in Manipur, where government is appealing to all the warring factions to come into the negotiation table where our Minister of State is deployed there for 23 days. Home Minister spent 3 days in Manipur. It is the time for the opposition party to stand behind the government. As I said, this is not a normal, small-time, localized clash. It is a conflict between two dominant communities. In this kind of situation, the opposition party should stand behind the government and say that we are with the government and also join us in appealing the people. I myself, being the chairman of the Northeast MPs Forum, in the very beginning, me and my colleagues from members of parliament from Northeast, we had sent an ardent appeal to the people of Manipur. We had drafted a message. We sent it across that please discuss, talk and sort out whatever differences we have. But violence is not the solution. Looting of the arms and then using it against another community is not the solution. It is not the way. Let us be civilized. Let us come to the negotiation table and sort out the differences. We know there are differences, deep-rooted differences between the Kukis and the Meiteis, and this is not a sudden, development. It has been there for a long, long time. So I have, as a Minister of State for Home, in the previous tenure, I handled the Home Ministry for 5 years, looking after the issues of Northeast. This kind of thing happened. This unfortunate thing which we have seen in the past 3 months in Manipur has to be handled with full maturity. So I would like to once again appeal the opposition party, don't play politics. The tragedy in Manipur must be solved by all party and everybody who are concerned with the issue. So Prime Minister has made an appeal. Prime Minister has clearly told that the whole nation stands with the people of Manipur. Home Minister also appealed in the Lok Sabha through a resolution that the whole parliament stands with the people of Manipur. So this is a time where every political party in India should stand behind the government and appeal for peace. It is time to make a fervent appeal to the people of Manipur, not to add fuel to the fire. And that way they are not doing any service to the nation.
Mr. Kiren Rijiju, you say that all of this started with a High Court order. May I tell you, the Manipur High Court order came on the 14th of April. Violence broke out in early May, 3rd and 4th of May. It was on the 3rd of May that the All Tribal Students Union of Manipur called for a protest. So there is a gap of about 17 days between the order of the High Court and violence actually breaking down. In the interim, did the government fail to understand the repercussions that this High Court order could have had?
No, I was the law minister at that time, and when the High Court passed an order, I was also a little bit disturbed because the recognition of any community as scheduled tribes is totally a policy matter. And there are criteria how a particular group is to be defined and given the status of scheduled tribe. So High Court is not the forum to declare a particular community as scheduled tribe. But the Manipur High Court had passed a direction that within a specific time period, the Meiteis should be given the scheduled tribe status. Now, the fallout of this High Court order has been felt across the country, especially in the hills of Manipur where the tribals reside. They took out a very, very large procession which is against the High Court order. In a way, they wanted to send out a message. So that procession which took out in Churachandpur turned into violence. Now, I am not going into the details of how it led to the violence, what were the incidents and how it was counter-reacted and all. I'm not going into that. But that procession which was conducted by the tribal students group, that actually triggered into the subsequent violence which occurred. So, of course, the Manipur government could not have comprehended that procession in Churachandpur could result in such a violent crisis, and that was a cascading effect right after that violence in Churachandpur, the immediate retaliation which happened in the valleys, and in Manipur, the valley, the Imphal Valley, the foothills are also having large numbers of Kuki villages. So the attack and counter-attack started happening in the valleys also. So that spiraling effect was so sudden and so widespread that it was so difficult for any government or any apparatus to handle. I fully understand the situation, but the reaction from the central government was very swift. The deployment of the force and everything was very, very prompt. But as I said, because the nature of the problem was so widespread, it is not confined to one place or one locality. It is across. So that is why that unfortunate incident which happened, and then the tragic killings of many innocent people, and then large numbers of arms were looted by different groups. So that happened so rapid. That is why we have to handle it carefully. Now, as what Rahul Gandhi has stated, that Indian army should be used, and what this nonsense going on in Manipur should be stopped within 24 hours. This kind of immature statement is not going to do any good for the tragedy which has happened in Manipur. Army cannot just blindly get into action and start firing the people. This is as I repeatedly saying, this is not a clash of few groups. It is a larger conflict between two dominant communities. So in this kind of situation, it is easy to say that stop the violence, but it is not easy to really use the force and bring the peace forcefully. Use of military action and military operation should be the last resort. Let the state government and the central armed forces in a coordinated manner handle the situation so that the collateral damages can be minimized. That is why you have not seen even a single case where central forces had caused any death of the civilian population.
So, Mr. Kiren Rijiju, what would you call the fact that there is some amount of confrontation that is going on between the Manipur police and the Assam Rifles? Manipur police has registered cases against the Assam Rifles and clearly shows that it does not want to work with the central forces, number one. And number two, the fact is also that many people say that arms that you said have been looted are voluntary given by the Manipur police to the warring communities, and that is virtually arming the communities to create violence in the state. Clearly, the boundaries of law and order have been breached, and breached in such a serious manner that doubts are being raised whether the state government is in a position to handle the situation, and who's going to be held accountable.
I think your question is extremely critical, and it is a valid query. I also admit that the situation is not an ordinary situation, it's an extraordinary situation. The division within the ranks in the police force is also vertically divided. Even the people who are working in different offices are also vertically divided. That is why the police forces itself are so in a precarious situation that a particular section of the police force belonging to one community are moving in one direction. How do a chief minister function in such a situation? Chief minister will function effectively when his forces are in unison. If the police force are working as a unit, and the forces are divided on the line of the ethnic division, then it is a huge challenge for anybody who would be in the chief minister's position. That is why I said the extraordinary situation requires extraordinary handling. That is why the Home Minister himself stayed for 3 days and appealed for the peace. And we require the support of the community leaders. Unless the community representatives come and participate in this kind of situation, it is very difficult to just say that central government must act in this or that manner. So I really feel that in this kind of crisis, the country should be united. Nobody should get into politicking, and we must show that the appeal made by the Honorable Prime Minister reaches out to the people of Manipur, that the country is concerned about Manipur, country stands with the Manipur, and it is a time that civil society is in the Manipur also should appeal to everybody in Manipur to abjure violence, come to the negotiation table and try to get back to normalcy as we used to see before the crisis happened.
Mr. Kiren Rijiju, I completely agree with you that the country should stand with Manipur. There should be no politicking, but we live in the real world. And in the real world, politics does exist. There is a parliament and there is an opposition, just as there is a government. You don't expect the opposition to sit silently and not raise any questions, any criticisms when a situation is evidently going out of hand and it is visible to the people of this country. So I want to ask you, there is no doubt that your government has done a lot in terms of infrastructure building, in terms of the number of visits the Prime Minister has made to the Northeast, in terms of connecting the Northeast to mainland India and bringing it closer. All that is granted to your government. But tonight, I also want to ask you, and you must tell me frankly and truthfully, if the last 3 months have damaged the BJP's prospects in the Northeast, and does it enjoy the same trust as it did before these 3 months and this Manipur conflagration took place?
Manipur issue is very unfortunate. We all are saddened by all those tragic incidents, the unfortunate killing of innocent lives. For any civil society, for any political party, it's a matter of great concern, and I feel that we should not look at this kind of thing from political angle. In last 9 years, how Modi ji has connected with the people of Northeast are so evidently visible. People living in the border areas are seeing the light of development. The transformation in the life of the people are so evident that people themselves are saying that after 70, 72, 73 years of independence, we are seeing the benefits of the central government reaching into the remote corners of Northeast. Prime Minister has connected with the Northeastern people not only through physical development but through emotional appeal also. People of Northeast used to feel that the Delhi doesn't care for them. This kind of feelings existed for too long. That is why all these insurgent groups were formed. Now, 2014 onwards, peace, prosperity is the two key words which are so much into the life of the people of Northeast. Assam, Arunachal, Nagaland, Manipur. Barring this unfortunate incident in Manipur, we saw peace in Manipur for last so many years. Earlier it used to be, everyday affairs. The killings, the kidnapping, the violence, the all kind of intra-community conflicts, ethnic violence. These were order of the day in the past. But this unfortunate one incident in Manipur has shaken our conscience. I do admit it. But the thing is, Prime Minister's commitment to the people of Northeast cannot be damaged by one incident, because this unfortunate incident we all accept, but peace and normalcy is returning, and people are also seeing that the efforts of Honorable Prime Minister is very genuine, and Government of India will do everything it takes to handle the situation. But this will in no way take away the credibility of the Honorable Prime Minister, and Northeast is becoming a hub for so many activities. And Northeast is becoming an important part of the engines to drive Indian economy. Today, Northeast is growing so fast that it is one of the fastest growing region in the country. And the infrastructure, the soft infrastructure, hard infrastructure, all other avenues for the people to see that they are also entitled to have the facilities which the people of other parts of the country are enjoying. So these are something which everybody knows it. Yesterday only I had interacted with the people from border areas who have been invited to attend the 15th August Independence Day celebration. Everybody is excited. They say that after Modi ji became Prime Minister, Northeast is feeling we are part of the mainstream India. We are no more neglected and isolated region. So this kind of transformation which has happened because of Prime Minister's effort cannot be washed away, cannot be undone. So when you say that the credibility of the government is in question, no. Our genuine efforts, our intention, people know there is no lacking in that. The unfortunate incident will also be taken care of, we'll handle it. Wholeheartedly, we are putting in everything to bring normalcy. There's no question about that. But when it comes to politics, I don't want to talk too much of the politics, but the credibility of the Prime Minister cannot be questioned. And Northeast people stand with Narendra Modi ji. That is very, very clear.
What would you say about the Supreme Court, which in its order says the tardy pace of investigation by the investigating machinery in the state of Manipur has emerged from the material which has been placed before this court, which is indicative of a significant delay between the occurrence of incidents involving heinous crimes, including murder, rape and arson, and the recording of the zero FIRs. Significant delays in forwarding the zero FIRs to police stations which have jurisdiction over these incidents, delays in conversion of the zero FIR into regular FIR, delays in recording witness statements, lack of diligence in recording the statements under 161 and 164 of the CRPC. Clearly, the Supreme Court has indicated that somewhere or the other, the law and order machinery is absolutely collapsed in the state, and that is exactly what the opposition picked up on the eve of the parliament session when they put out the video of one woman and the kind of sexual assault that was imposed on her, which was a shocking video which stirred the conscience of this nation. I want to ask you, Mr. Kiren Rijiju, in the face of this abject failure, is it okay to keep saying, oh, in the past the Congress was responsible for the way the Northeast has been, or the Congress is doing politics? What about the BJP? What about your government, sir?
I am responding to your query with very, very open mind and very clear heart. This kind of incidents, whenever or wherever it happens, we cannot take the refuge of the previous government or blame the past. That is very clear. What I'm saying is, the observations made by the court are valid, but the situation on the ground is not normal. I had also explained to you earlier. The advocates, the lawyers will explain it. I'm not going to explain it to the court. But what I'm going to say is, the court's concerns are genuine, but the situation on the ground, the situation which is prevailing, it is not normal. The police are not functioning in a normal circumstances. The situation on the ground is extremely challenging. But when this unfortunate and very shameful video emerged, and the whole nation saw it, and we all were shocked. The police had acted swiftly, and all the people who are found to be part of that heinous crime against humanity, they all have been caught, arrested and put into trial. and the most stringent punishment will be meted out to them. There's no denying in that. Honorable Prime Minister also had said that it's a matter of shame for the nation. Our head hangs in shame. So this is very clear. So the court's observations are valid, but the courts are to be told that the situation on the ground is not a normal situation where police can normally obtain and any kind of a person can be called and verified, investigated and put under trial.
Are you saying the courts are far removed from reality?
That cannot be an excuse. The courts need to be briefed. See, courts function independently and the courts have right to put question and pass directions also. But the courts are also to be sensitized about the real situation on the ground. That is why I am repeatedly saying that the situation in Manipur cannot be equated with a normal clash of some groups and some incidents and normal law and order problems which we keep seeing in different parts of the country. It is a clash between two dominant groups of a state. How that situation will turn into, that one must understand. Manipur is not a geographically large state. It is a comparatively a smaller state, very vibrant state, very progressive state, and two dominant communities come into conflict can really turn around the whole situation. When the police personnel are divided on the ethnic lines, can you imagine what would be the situation? That is why we must be very, very careful about when we talk about Manipur situation, and that is why we had fervently called upon the opposition party that in this kind of very, very challenging situation, it is necessary to stand united and not to provoke by making some wild allegations and provocative statements. Some of the people I have seen, they even use some religious angles saying that the Christians are targeted. Another group saying that the Hindus in the Imphal Valley are being targeted. So it is not a religious conflict. It is a conflict between two ethnic identities. So that is why either whether it is a court or whether it is political parties or the civil societies, we all need to come together to bring back normalcy in the state of Manipur.
Is there a message you're sending to the courts today? Are you saying the courts are far removed from the reality on the ground and probably do not understand the complexities of the situation in Manipur? Are you saying that, Mr. Rijiju?
No, not at all. The courts do not have the apparatus to get information themselves. They have to get the information from the administration only, from the government only. That is why the courts needs to be sensitized by providing the correct information. The courts, Indian courts, have the full authority to pass order. The courts can at times take into account suo motu, register the case and pass direction. Courts take cognizance of anything. Nobody is challenging that. I myself, being the law minister, I had very delicately handled the matters with the various courts of the country. So Indian courts are very independent. But it is our duty to provide correct information to the court. Otherwise, the courts will remain half informed about the situation. That is why I am saying it is the duty of the agencies and the administration through their lawyers to sensitize and provide full information to the courts.
Mr. Kiren Rijiju, you spoke about your stint as a law minister and how you delicately handled. But many probably felt that you were a very vociferous law minister, and on several occasions you reminded the courts of their own jurisdiction, whether it was the collegium system, whether it was the Lakshman Rekhas within which courts and judges should operate in. Few statements that were made by you. Much speculation on why you moved from the law ministry to the earth sciences ministry. Do you think your outspokenness cost you your position as the law minister?
No, no, we should not look into the shifting, reshuffle from all this angle, because I don't believe in that. I, as a law minister, had an excellent relationship with all the judges, the judiciary, the legal fraternity. There was no problem in it. I had spoken on few occasions that was only to clarify, because in the public domain, some people mischievously, created impression that all the pending of the cases are because of the government, the delay in the appointment of the judges are because of the government. All this kind of misinformation campaigns were going on. I had just tried to clarify it. There's nothing to do with attacking the judiciary or criticizing the functioning of the courts or the collegium system. It's nothing to do with that. I was merely stating the fact, and when there are accusations against the government, then the minister concerned has to clarify it, respond it appropriately. So this should not be linked in any manner with the shifting of the ministry. It is totally the prerogative of the Prime Minister, and nobody should question the Prime Minister for the action.
Were you surprised?
No, these are personal things. I cannot speak in the national television.
No, personal, all right, but this has to do with your public office as well. So, did it come like a bolt from the blue? Or were you expecting, did somebody talk to you before that?
See, as a part of the cabinet, as long as you are in the cabinet, we all work collectively. The portfolios are totally the prerogative of the Prime Minister, and we function unitedly. For me, the portfolio is not important. Giving an opportunity to work in the cabinet is a huge opportunity. So look at things from that perspective. I don't really, I had been minister in so many different departments. I was MOS home for 5 full years in the previous term. I was the Law and Justice Minister. I was Minister for Youth Affairs, Sports. I looked after Ayush Ministry. I had the Ministry of Minority Affairs also. So these different ministries at different time is how Prime Minister runs the government, by appointing different ministers with different portfolios. So when it comes to portfolio, we should not even think about why this portfolio and why this portfolio. The fact that you are in the cabinet, that itself is the opportunity to serve the nation.
Mr. Kiren Rijiju, the 2024 elections are around the corner. There is a new alliance of opposition parties called the India. How seriously do you take this India alliance? And do you think in the third round, anti-incumbency will be a challenge for the BJP government?
I will not evaluate in details about this formation of this so-called India alliance and anti-incumbency. What I want to say is, we have 2 different elections. One is for the Lok Sabha, which is general election, and another is the state elections. When it comes to national elections, the country very well understands that India has to move under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. Nobody disputes that. Even the strongest of our critics, those who do not align with the BJP or NDA's ideology, are also in agreement that the country needs the leadership of Narendra Modi ji. The unison picture of India as a unit, as a nation, needs a strong leadership, a visionary leadership. It is a matter of pride for every Indian that India's Prime Minister is the most popular elected leader in the world today. Is it not a matter of pride for every Indian? We may have differences in our opinions and ideologies, but when it comes to national prestige and pride, we are one. That is why I said, I'm confidently saying it. Even the opposition parties who criticize our party and our leadership, they also know that India is fully safe and secure, and India has a great future under the leadership of Narendra Modi ji. So when it comes to Lok Sabha election, forget about anti-incumbency. It is 100% pro-incumbency because Narendra Modi ji has delivered. He has transformed Indian economy, India's self-reliance, India's ability to stand on its own feet, and also to take forward India and make India as the leading nation. There's no dispute in that. When it comes to state elections, it may vary from state to state because of the local factors and local issues. But when it comes to national election, Lok Sabha, people of India are with Narendra Modi ji.
So are you saying that Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Telangana may not look very bright for you at the moment?
No, I'm not talking, as I said, no, I don't want to make, I am not a authorized person to even make predictions and assessment. We have party leaders given charge in different states. I am also looking after Lok Sabha Pravas in Assam for Lok Sabha election. Every senior leader has been given certain roles. They are assigned certain responsibilities. We are all working, and I could see whenever I go to ground, when it comes to national leadership, there is undisputed convergence of all the section of the society, Narendra Modi's leadership. That is beyond any doubt. But when it comes to state, as I said, I don't want to assess state to state because that requires lots of deliberation, and I don't want to get into that.
Mr. Kiren Rijiju, the BJP has maxed many states. In the 2019 elections, when you came with a number of 303 in the Lok Sabha, don't you think, and many psephologists would say that after being 10 years in power, you know, wherever you have maxed it, states like Rajasthan, states like Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, the Hindi heartland, there are going to be a few erosions that you are going to see. The South isn't turning around. In fact, you had Karnataka, you know, it's gone to the Congress now. Punjab, you were never there. Your alliance is broken there. Anti-incumbency in Haryana is something you'll have to look at. You've lost Himachal Pradesh. There was a time when you had many states, but now 2024 is going to be a different ball game. I want to ask you, is there overconfidence? Or is there confidence within the BJP? Because sometimes even overconfidence can lead to some wrong decisions being taken.
There's no question of being confident or being overconfident. But one must have the confidence to run the country. What I'm saying is, in 2014, people had a dream. They wanted to have Narendra Modi ji as the Prime Minister. We got absolute majority. Then 5 years of performance saw that Narendra Modi ji's leadership must be strengthened. That is why BJP got larger numbers of seats. Now, after 9 years completion, the status and the stature of India has grown. And where Western countries have failed, whether it's COVID or the Ukraine-China, Russia war, or any kind of economic downturn which is happening, inflation in our neighboring countries are unbearable. There are crises all over. India is emerging as a stable and a bright spot. So all this has led to the understanding of the people that Prime Minister Modi's leadership must continue. That is why people will give even a larger mandate. It's not what I'm saying. It is the track record, and the people are saying it. So there is nothing called I should be, being overconfident or confident. simply the reality on the ground. People want India to lead the whole world, and Prime Minister is taking the charge. And today the global community have also accepted that Narendra Modi ji is the most popular global leader. I have been to so many countries as a minister representing India and talking to my counterparts. The kind of appreciation and the kind of confidence they have on India and India's Prime Minister, it is a heartwarming. It is a matter of pride as an Indian. Forget that I am even a minister. As an Indian, what I experienced in the past, we were treated as a normal country which is seeking opportunities in other developed countries. Today the whole world is looking at India. So these are beyond the spectrum of political, bipolarity. I don't really look into politics when I think about the country. The country needs Narendra Modi ji's leadership. People want Narendra Modi to continue as the Prime Minister. This is purely on the basis of the outlook of a citizen, not as a minister.
Mr. Rijiju, before I let you go, you're an extremely popular minister on social media. You know, the kind of stuff that you put out, people almost can make out that your first love is sports, physical fitness, music. On a personal note, why don't you sing something for our viewers? You're so much into music, whether you want to sing a Northeastern song or a Hindi song or an English number. What is your favorite?
See, Navika, I am very sporty by my nature and character. I am very adventurous. I love adventure. I venture out, mingle with the people. I do lots of stuff. As a public figure, I come across so many people and I merge with different sections of the society. When it comes to music and sports, these are my passion. We have talked about serious stuff like tragedy in Manipur and the serious stuff right now. It may not be a correct ending with songs. Definitely I will, have an occasion. One of those occasions, definitely we will have a lighter moment. But today, especially after talking about Manipur and all, especially the tragedy in Manipur, I don't want to really sing. It will not come out of my heart. It will not be natural.
I understand. And I completely respect your feelings on that, Mr. Kiren Rijiju. But I'd like to say thank you for being frank, and thank you for being open, and thank you for speaking with me very, very openly and straight from the heart. Thank you for joining me on Frankly Speaking.